Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call the public hearing. The first part of our meeting today will be a public hearing on the budget. We then will go into our regular meeting. So I would like to call the public hearing in consideration of adoption and or approval of a budget for FY 2016-2017 to order. I would like to ask Mr. Gideon Winyata, a student at South Mountain Community College, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Mr. Winyata. Ms. Gay.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gutierrez, Governing Board members, Chancellor Harper-Marinick, CEC members, and public hearing guests. I have a very brief presentation on the budget tonight for you. One thing I did need to let you know is that we have had a last-minute correction. I think we talked to the board about on February 10th, we received official notification from the Maricopa County Assessor's Office about property values that we have to use in calculating the budget. From that information, we get information about the new property that has been added to the tax roll since last year and the change in valuation from existing property owners. What happened was last Friday, while we were kind of out on spring break, we received information from the State Property Tax Oversight Commission. And they had reviewed the Maricopa County information and decided that Maricopa had made a mistake. That's Maricopa County Assessor's Office. And so they revised our property tax information and provided that to us. And we were pretty happy because looking at it, they said that new property was even higher than they had projected, which meant that we would be able to add about $180,000 in additional revenue to our budget from new property, which is new buildings that had been constructed and assessed since last year. What we figured out, though, is that even though we could add this without an increase to existing property owners, part of our budget approval process requires that we publish our budget in the Arizona Republic and to publish it on our website. And in addition, Maricopa traditionally holds a major taxpayers meeting, which we held, and we had already provided information about the proposed tax levy and the tax rate. So unfortunately, we decided there was just not an appropriate way at this late date to change that levy or to change the tax rate that had been published. So what we're really looking at is, with the original one, we were looking at new construction at about $10 million. The Property Tax Oversight Commission now tells us it's going to be about 10.2. But in order to come up with, to arrive at the same proposed tax levy and tax rate, we would need to reduce the levy to existing property owners. And that's the proposal we have taken. So the bottom line is the same. It's just we flipped the amount from new construction and existing property. and that's consistent with what the Property Tax Oversight Committee recommended and approved.
Are there any questions on that point? Any questions on that point? If not, proceed, Ms. Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. I've not ever seen them do this before, so it is quite an unusual circumstance. But again, since we had already provided the information to our public and to our taxpayers, we didn't want to change the rate or the levy. So in looking at our proposed budget, our internal Maricopa Financial Advisory Council had looked at both a $2 tuition increase and a 2% increase in the tax levy. And while the board approved the $2 increase in tuition, after Chancellor Maria Harper Marinick was appointed, she looked at the budget and advised us that she could not support moving forward with a 2% tax increase. So she directed my office to prepare a budget that did not have a 2% increase in the levy, and to figure out a way how we could move forward with most of the things that would improve services through the district, but maybe not to the extent we had wanted, but at least it would be to the extent we could afford. So our general fund budget will increase only slightly. Our auxiliary and restricted funds are pretty flat. And our biggest change really comes to our capital fund, which is actually a reflection of a good thing because it shows that we are spending down our bond funds through our 2004 approved capital program. And as we spend those monies, we construct new buildings and renovate buildings, which is a very good thing for the district. So although in total our revenues are down, it really doesn't affect the operation of the district. So in terms of our general fund resources, we believe we'll have allocable resources of about $17.16 million. We're looking at that primary tax levy, $9.5 million, plus revenue we receive from SRP. So the change will be new construction. We'll get about 10.2, but we will subtract about 200,000 that we will not collect from existing property owners, so that the new construction in total will be a net of 10 million. Tuition is up 4.8 million. And other adjustments, 2.8, most of which is an internal reallocation of existing funds to help offset the district's needs of about 3 million. So in looking at the proposed uses, again, a balanced budget, 17.16 million. This list has really not changed much, and governing board members have seen it many times. As we've moved through the year, we're looking at changes for employee policy manual operating costs for our maintenance of technology and for new buildings coming online, moving some Prop 301 supported faculty to Fund 1, adding additional residential faculty to improve the ratio of full-time permanent faculty to adjuncts. Looking at moving forward with our One Maricopa, our student success priorities, an increase for employee health benefits, retirement, and a salary adjustment that'll be either a step for those who are step eligible or a 2% COLA for those employees who are not step eligible. And in terms of our primary and secondary tax levy and rate, this is no different from what we had published and shared with our major taxpayers. We're looking at overall decreases in the rates because property values are increasing across the district, and we had to reduce the rates in order not to collect more money than the board has authorized us to. So with that, I wanted to ask your indulgence for one more thing, Mr. Gutierrez.
Proceed.
Would you mind if I introduce the entire Financial Planning and Budget Department?
After all the work they've done, we'd be honored. Honored to meet them.
This is our department. You can raise your hands. It's the 4 people sitting here. They do all the budget work for the district.
Can they stand so we can
Yes,
see
they
them?
should. Leluc Clow, Susan Horner, Mike Trier, and Chris Kelly. And I think you won't find a harder working group of folks at Maricopa or anyplace else. They do tremendous work. And we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. At this time, any resident or taxpayer may speak to the budget. If there is none, we will ask for any comments by the board on the budget.
President Gutierrez, when it comes time to vote, I'd like to explain my vote, but I don't have a separate comment.
Yes, ma'am. If there is no other comments, the public hearing is adjourned. The special session on the budget is now called to order. The only item on the agenda is the final adoption of the Maricopa Community College District budget for 2016-2017. Chancellor, are there any comments on your part?
Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity just to say thank you to Ms. Murphy and the staff, because a lot of work, time was invested in making sure that we have a responsible budget that doesn't require a tax increase on the part of the residents of our county. So I believe it is the right thing to do right now. We're still moving forward with supporting initiatives for students and supporting our employees for the good work they do. So we appreciate the support. Thank you.
Is there any additional discussion by the board during the special session?
You have a motion?
Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, we will ask for a roll call vote. Ms. Smith?
Mr. Burke,
Yes.
Ms. Haber,
Yes.
Mr. Heap,
No.
Ms. Livingston,
I would like to explain my vote and then go ahead and vote.
Proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gutierrez. While I agree that everyone that works for Maricopa does deserve a raise, I would not take that away from anyone in these times. I do not feel at this time that a raising of tuition for our students was the right thing to do, and I voted no last on the tuition increase, and so that obviously puts me in a hard position. But I feel I must vote no on this budget because it does say how we're really getting the money to continue this large institution by once again another rate increase, and I cannot support that, and thus cannot support this budget. Thank you.
Ms. McGrath?
I'd like to explain my vote,
Yes, ma'am.
President Gutierrez. I'm very disappointed that we seem to feel that we can extract more money from the students. Right now, it is costing us $825 for every hour that every student takes. The student is paying $84 of that. The taxpayers are paying $241 of that. And I have asked repeatedly for staff to find a way to reduce expenses. And they've not come up with anything. And I think that this budget is much too large. We're losing enrollment. We're down about 12%. One campus, we're down 25%. We have one campus that has a full-time staff. and they're down to 2,035 students. I think this is just unsupportable, and I vote no.
Mr. Starr?
I'll explain my vote. We're one of the top 5 public budgets in the state, and if we weren't providing value that matches that, I wouldn't be sitting here, first of all. But we do provide value. We know that we meet the needs of our business and industry partners as best we can with our current configuration and budget, but we are being asked to do more for them, to make sure that the workforce that they require is available to them, both now and in the future. I hold the district accountable, and always have, for any increase to make sure we get a return on that increase. And the return is simply to make sure that the needs of the business and industry and the community are met by what our mission is here at Maricopa Community Colleges. I don't see this as any excess in it. We could go line by line and change a few $100s here and there, but the bottom line is, in a $1.5 billion budget, I think it's providing everything we need to keep us where we are, and hopefully look forward to improving our output in the future. So I vote aye.
Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you. This is a tough vote, because I think both Ms. Livingston and Ms. McGrath make an excellent point. And let me go to that. Even with this increase, this system, without 1 cent of state support, is the 5th lowest tuition in the United States of America. Think about that for a moment. The state provides 0. This is the 5th lowest tuition. There are approximately 1,400 systems in the United States, and we're the 5th lowest. And we provide an extraordinary a product, if you will. That's a terrible way to describe it as a product. An extraordinary experience. I'll give you an example of that. Today, over 60% of the students at ASU who are juniors and seniors have 12 or more credit hours from this community college system. 12 or more, over 60%. And their outcome, that is, their ability to graduate with a bachelor's degree, is greater than those who have entered as freshmen at ASU. Now, that speaks to the extraordinary quality of the education we are providing, and the extraordinarily well-managed system this has been. There definitely is, as Ms. McGrath is fond to point out, places that we can cut back, and I want to congratulate Chancellor. The interim Chancellor Harper Marinick for being in a position for, I don't know, it seemed like 2 hours, but perhaps 2 weeks, enforcing a total reconsideration of the budget to where we dropped the need for a 2% tax increase. That drop is significant, and it belies any notion that we didn't cut back. That's a significant loss of projected revenue. So I think this is a well done budget. I welcome the kind of scrutiny that the Chancellor brought to it in a very short period of time, and I hope as we proceed throughout the year to rethink the budget, and I do think and I do believe that it's time to do so. I welcome the Chancellor's involvement, and I thank her for simply not accepting the status quo. I vote aye.
The vote is 4 yes, 3 no.
The vote is 4 ayes, 3 noes. The budget is adopted. We now have adjourned, we're about to adjourn without objection, the special session on the budget. And we will now proceed forward to our regularly posted meeting of the board. I have a very confusing thing today. Ms. Smith, can I talk to you a moment? You've marked all those off, but we're still, this is the agenda.
Well, that's the consent agenda.
No, I'm talking about meritus distinctions,
Oh,
etc.
right.
Why did you mark them three?
Oh, well, because there has been action under 7. This thing is the same as
So you gave me a duplicate copy?
page 3.
I think you gave me, this is page 3. So you gave me a duplicate. One duplicate is in red, and the other one is marked out. Okay, I now have 3 of them. Which one do you want back? There you go. One of these days, I'll get the hang of this. I would now like to call to order the regular board meeting of March 22nd, 2016. The first item would be the student life reports, Estrella Mountain Community College.
Good evening, President Gutierrez, board members, Chancellor Harper Marinick, CEC members, and guests. My name is Edward Chavez. I am a Student Life Ambassador at Estrella Mountain Community College, and today I will be presenting some of the activities and events that Student Life has hosted throughout the academic year. Student Life and Leadership. The Student Life and Leadership Office provides an environment which fosters social, academic, and professional growth and development of the student. The Student Life and Leadership Office is housed at the EMCC Student Union, which is the central hub for students on campus. We serve over 400 students, faculty and staff, and community members on a weekly basis. And the way we do this is through student services. We provide discount bus passes, the student food pantry, campus managed posting boards, leadership development, child care assistance, and popcorn. Popcorn on Thursdays, yes.
Popcorn is important.
One thing I'd like to elaborate on is our student food pantry. Our Student Life Food Pantry was established in spring of 2014. It has had over 1,600 visits, and all the donations have come from both faculty, staff, and students alone. In that, the process, the way it works is students are allowed to visit the pantry twice per week, and per visit, they're allowed to grab 2 items. It is our way of having a courtesy for the students to not only be fed, not only be able to have an opportunity to not study and do all their hard work on an empty stomach, but it's just a way to show kindness out of our heart. Past programs and events. Some of the past program and events that we've had are the Black History Month, where it consisted of the Black History Conference and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Luncheon. We've had Club and Orgs Day, Hispanic Heritage Month, the Cesar Chavez Luncheon, Native American Heritage Month, Student Appreciation Day, Week of Champions, Coffee Talks, Student Forums, and Alternative Spring Break. As you can see, we have Week of Champions bolded. The reason for that is because it is an alternative way of saying finals week. We students, when we hear those words, we cringe when it comes to that. We think of anxiety, stress, long hours of hitting the books and cramming. And so, in order to alleviate that, at Estrella Mountain Community College, we have decided to call it the Week of Champions and provide events throughout the week. We do this by changing the mindset and changing the idea of what finals week should be. So not only are we seeing it as champions, we're preparing ourselves as champions, we're studying like champions, and when we hit those books and hit the exam, we ace it like champions. In addition to that, Student Life has offered a lot of great courtesies to help promote that, and they do it by providing survival kits, because every student needs a survival kit, an area to study quietly, and motivational quotes throughout the whole entire school to keep students motivated even when they know that they need to have another hour of study. Some of the forums. We have a lot of forums throughout the semester, and the most common is our Coffee Talk series. Our Coffee Talk series is an opportunity for students to get together and voice their ideas, their opinions, their concerns to our administration through dialogue. Through this, we're able to not only better the connection between student and faculty and staff and administration, but we're also to better the college experience for the students. We have our tuition forum facilitated by Dr. Gay Murphy, and we had an open Q&A forum where I, as a student ambassador, and my peers were able to connect with the students and have them voice their concerns, opinions, questions that they needed to help not only understand what their needs are, but also what we can do to better the student experience. Alternative Spring Break. Student Life collaborated with Service Learning to facilitate the college's first ever Alternative Spring Break. We had an amazing outcome. 30 students and staff members spent spring break at Homeward Bound site cleaning and painting 5 apartments and a condo, which would be used to accommodate for families in need. As you can see here, we have a few pictures of how it went. Now, instead of college students going out to Lake Pleasant or Rocky Point to party, to have fun, we decided that we wanted to provide a more generous alternative, a more heartwarming, a more way to give back to the community. And we did this by having these group of individuals dedicate their time and hard work to not only making a change, but giving back to the community and feeling good about it. We are not only changing lives, but we're making a difference. Club and organizations. Currently, Estrella Mountain Community College has over 20 active clubs and organizations. Our student club and organizations sponsor over 82 campus-based programs and community service-based programs this academic year. And we're on the verge of reaching 100 programs that are sponsored. Some of the events are the FMLA, which is the Feminist Majority Leadership Alliance, where they have their clothing line project. 1 Billion Rising, which is an event where they've had students learn about sexual violence and created presentations to help share the knowledge on campus. We've had our STEM club have a seminar where they invited professional engineers to present to the students, the staff, and the community members. And we've also had Burrowing Owls, which is another project that STEM Club invests in, where students build owl habitats to house burrowing owls on EMCC campus grounds. We have our Future Teachers Club, where they have their Mosaic Arts Center cardboard challenge. And they also do storytelling at St. John's VNA. 11 Future Teachers Students Club members. They do storytelling through and skits for approximately 100 children each time, and they're engaging in school-aged children. Fitness and wellness. This spring of 2016 Live Well, Learn Well events, we've challenged students and employees to set healthy behavior goals over the 4-week period and asked them to track them and report back to earn a t-shirt. Topics included physical activity and sleep, healthy eating, mental health and stress resiliency, and drug and alcohol abuse prevention. Because we all know healthy habits are correlated with better academic performances, thus the theme, live well, be well, learn well. Some upcoming events that we have for the remainder of the spring semester. We have our Women's Conference, which is on March 30th of 2016. It will be breaking down to 3 sessions, all of which focus around a centered theme, which is strength. And all of that would come to a conclusion with the Women's Conference luncheon, also added with a keynote speaker. We have our Emergency Preparedness Forum, which actually sprung out from one of our coffee talks due to the students wanting to be more aware of safety issues. We have our Student Appreciation Day, where Student Life is able to directly get involved with 500 plus students, expose them to the resources and things that we have available on campus, and show them that we appreciate all their hard work and efforts that they do to better themselves as people and students. We have our Spring Fling, our Club and Organization Olympics, Club and Orgs Banquet, where we gather all of our club and organizations to get together to reflect on some of the events that have happened throughout the semester and reward them, sorry about that, with Club of the Year, Program of the Year, and Community Service Program of the Year, to show them that them reaching out to the students and showing them that we do have other resources available to them is rewarding. And lastly, again, we would have our Week of Champions for the remainder of the semester. That concludes my presentation, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. Are there any questions? Ms. Livingston.
You can't get away. Not yet. Okay. I just wanted to say this is where my students will end up going. And I did particularly like, because I'm right down the street from y'all, I did particularly like how much you incorporate giving back into your system. And as all the campuses really do, but it was really nice to hear. Also, if you ever have a teacher that wants to read to high schoolers, they can come on in.
Thank you so much.
I'll give up a day.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Chavez.
Thank you.
Gateway Community College.
President Gutierrez, I would like to have the permission to introduce one of our student leaders on campus. His name is Mr. Ulysses Lopez. We are very honored to have a student such as Ulysses on our campus. He is a combat veteran, and he brings that skill set to our campus and has demonstrated his leadership abilities on our campus. When I first met Ulysses, he shared with me his political aspirations and how he is involved in his community, and you can see he's displaying his I voted, and I'm not going to say what candidate because I can't see, but he's got a political button on too, so he's promoting even while he's up here. Very strong leader on campus, and we're happy to have him here tonight. He will also introduce other student leaders that he has brought. He is currently the president of our Hispanic student organization on campus. I introduce to you Mr. Ulysses Lopez.
Mr. Lopez.
Well, first I want to go ahead and give a round of applause to Mr. Chavez and Estrella Community College, or Estrella Mountain Community College, for leading the way for the Maricopa Community College District. Good evening, and thank you, President Gutierrez, members of the board, Vice Chancellor Harper Marinick, the CEC, and distinguished guests. What I'm going to cover first is I'm going to cover the leadership opportunities and what we have done in this past academic year, the Center for Student Life and Leadership. The beautiful thing about the Center for Student Life and Leadership is how we are showing younger students that it's okay to take the initiative and take that step forward and cause change, that your voice will be heard, that if you communicate with other students and you guys put your minds together, you guys can accomplish great things, right? So we promote critical thinking in the Center for Student Life and Leadership. One of the things that we did this past August was at the Pine Summit 3-day summer camp retreat for leadership, where our students went up to Prescott and they learned valuable leadership skills that they brought back to Gateway Community College. I think the biggest thing that we got out from that event itself, was the ability to network positively across all community colleges and move forward and create those opportunities and links across each other. In November, students, the Student Life and Leadership, we had the opportunity to go to Los Angeles for the American Student Government Association Conference. It was beautiful because we had the opportunity to network across college campuses and universities across the United States. One thing that I like to highlight from this event was that the roundtable. So there was several modules that took place across the day, and we learned valuable lessons from teachers and leaders in the community nationwide and things that they learned along their academic journey. During the roundtable discussion, one thing that really stuck with all the students across all colleges in the United States was how we all have the similar struggle when it comes to financing and education, but also finance and education, but also what we can do now as becoming leaders to change that for the future. So that was a beautiful thing that happened then. In February of this year, we had the One Maricopa one-day student retreat, leadership retreat on Gateway Community College campus. And what this did, again, it took our already existing leaders in Gateway Community College and it sharpened those skills, but also we were able to bring the newer college students, come in and show them, hey, it's okay, take the initiative, reach out to one another. If you want to go ahead and reach out to your brother and sister and cause a positive change through academics, it's fine. If you want to have an open-minded conversation, it's okay. With all that being said, our student leaders, they still had the ability to mobilize and organize the food pantry. That I don't have the digits, but I know we get students on a daily basis that take advantage of this pantry. And I think it's a beautiful experience, a beautiful thing, in the sense that we know Gateway Community College is the largest transient college in the Maricopa Community College District. And then on top of that, a lot of our students are single parents that come in and they don't have time to take full 12 credit hours. And so with all that being said, sometimes, just like Mr. Chavez highlighted, our students during finals week, they don't have the opportunity to actually sit down and have a meal, right? Or we have those students that paid that last dollar for their tuition, right? But we have that pantry that could help them out. And this is, again, due to our student leaders. But the leadership doesn't just start and end at Gateway Community College, but some of our leaders, our student leaders in Gateway Community College have extended that through civic participation and community service. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna introduce Ms. Jenny Solorzano, and she's gonna go ahead and continue on some more of the programs that Student Life and Leadership offers. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Solorzano, and I'm Secretary of Student Activities Management Council. I'm going to cover events and activities. So at Gateway Community College, we offer several events and activities where students can volunteer and get involved in program planning and campus events. SAM Council hosts several activities on campus, including Pizza with the College President and Gateway's Holiday Buffet. That buffet that we have for the holidays is open for students and their families. Student Life and Leadership also volunteers with the Feed My Starving Children organization. This program is a nonprofit organization empowering volunteers to pack meals for the malnourished children in nearly 70 countries. Gateway students participated in Feed My Starving Children twice this semester. The students packed 316 boxes, which equaled 68,256 meals. This fed 182 children for a year. SAM Council also hosts a monthly family movie night on campus where we have many in attendance, which include students, faculty, staff, and community members. Tomorrow, March 23rd, we will host our spring event. This year, SAM Council helped with the planning for the Gateway Student Success Fair, University Transfer, and our annual Geckoland theme, Geckos in Paradise. Spring means clear skies, sunny days, and every year, Gateway students and staff gather on campus for food, fun, entertainment, and good company. At the Student Success Fair and University Transfer, students will learn how to become more successful, engage with faculty and staff for support in completing their goals, connect to the resources they need to succeed while at Gateway, and discover their next step with any of the 20+ university transfer partners. that is all for that. So thank you, and next is Monique presenting clubs and organizations.
Hello, my name is Monique Artis, and I am the TRIO Organizations President, as well as I am a Connect Specialist at Gateway Community College. Working at Admissions and Records, I help first-year students or students who are coming back to school pretty much get settled in and help them, get started here at Gateway. It's very essential when you're in your first year at Gateway because you don't know anything, you don't know anyone, you don't know any resources that we have on campus, and so I really feel that getting connected with clubs and organizations is very essential in your first year here at any college, in my opinion. Here at Gateway, we offer many clubs, and in September we had a club expo where we had many clubs come out and pretty much rally in a bunch of people to join their club. We had a good outcome, and a lot of people were able to get into clubs and really bond and connect with not only the community but students and faculty on campus. Not only do we have SAM Council and BSU, Black Student Union, but we also have HSO, which is Luis is the president as well. He and his club also got together with a brunch with Senator Ruben Gallegos and Doug Ducey, the governor, and they really helped give back for Thanksgiving, giving turkey dinners to less fortunate people and people in need. Every semester here, every year at Gateway, we have a Around the World in 90 Minutes where students can experience international food and entertainment from different cultures, and that's really an eye-opener for students because we're all diverse and we all come from different aspects of life, and so it's a great way to really connect with everyone on campus. We have a SAM Council here, which stands for Student Activities Management, and we pretty much plan all the events here on campus. As Jennifer was talking about, we do have Geckoland coming up tomorrow. All the clubs have been working really hard this semester, and we cannot stress the right to vote. So if you haven't voted, definitely go out there and vote. And we would like to just thank you guys so much for this opportunity. And we would like to formally invite you to Geckoland tomorrow. It is from 11 to 6. There will be music, food, entertainment, and lots of ways to connect and network with everyone on campus. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Livingston.
Real quick, Mr. Lopez, first of all, thank you for your service. Thank you very much. You really are bringing for students a critical point of success, which is communication, not just via a cell phone or social media, and you're bringing them face to face and having them interact. Thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for that because it's the most difficult thing to do, elicit communication and telling them yes, they can cause change, because many don't think that. Miss Sarasono, Jenny. Hi. Sorry, I butcher names every day. Your work on building community and empowering others is so important, and you sound like the most organized person in the world. Keep up what you're doing because most students going into this area do not feel empowered. They're struggling just to get to their class and find their books. Miss Artis, you are so spunky and so contagious. You're fun. And I just wanted to jump into everything you do. The way I learn the most, truly, is because I don't have the leisure that the other board members do. I get to hear it from all of you. And just sitting here and taking in what you're doing every single day brings me such great pleasure. Thank you to all of you, and keep it up.
Mr. Saad.
Along with everything that's been said, I want to really stress the fact that you mentioned that you work in the registration area, enrollment area, and I think we forget sometimes that our students take a real important role when it comes to meeting those students enrolling for the first time and walking onto one of our campuses for the first time. And all of our campuses now have some form of one-stop, and I noticed, having walked on those campuses, that each of them has a student or a student-looking person getting right up to them when they walk in the door and ask them what their real needs are and pointing them in the right direction. I think that is so important to our success. So thank you all for doing that.
Mr. Chavez, closing comments.
Mr. President, no, thank you. Anything else, ladies?
Mr. Lopez, excuse me.
It's complete. I wouldn't correct you, sir. So.
That's because I'm an older veteran. You went in them new fancy modern wars.
Hey, sir, I know the echelon of rank, so that's something the military taught me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ms. Monique and Ms. Jennifer. College reports. The Adjunct Faculty Association report. Mr. Leo Valverde. Mr. Valverde is not present. Emeritus Awards and Recognitions. Paradise Valley Community College. Dr. Dale.
Actually, President Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor Harper Marinick, members of CEC, and guests. It is my pleasure tonight to bring forward recommendations for 2 faculty from Paradise Valley Community College for emeritus distinction. Dr. Tom Butler and Mr. Reyes Medrano, both whom have made significant contributions to teaching and learning as well as college leadership. Presenting them tonight is Dr. Paul Dale.
President Gutierrez, may we use the podium tonight, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Proceed.
President Gutierrez, members of the board, it is indeed a privilege tonight to present 2 amazing faculty members from Paradise Valley Community College that have combined over 70 years of teaching and leadership contributions to the Maricopa Community Colleges. It's difficult to do justice in a short amount of time, but I would like to highlight some of their career contributions, and I'll start with Dr. Butler first. Tom has dedicated more than 33 years of service to the Maricopa Community Colleges, and during his time, Tom has taught a wide variety of basic and advanced reading skills, phonics, spelling, ESL, English, public speaking, and critical thinking at 5 Maricopa Community Colleges. His contributions have been immeasurable. As president of Paradise Valley Community College's Faculty Senate from 1999 to 2000, Tom provided wise counsel to our campus community as we experienced quite a bit of growth and became much more comprehensive. In 2000, Tom joined the District Faculty Professional Growth Committee and served in this capacity for 4 years. In 2002, Tom was selected as chair of Paradise Valley Community College's academic assessment team. Tom was an innovator as a faculty member. He co-developed a course in reading improvement with international content, thereby responding to our desire and goal to prepare students to be successful in a global society. He actively used a variety of computer technologies well before his time and provided great leadership to our assessment programs at the college. As remarkable as Tom's contributions to Maricopa has been, one might argue that his greatest accomplishments to teaching, learning, and student success is in the area of community involvement. As the founding president of the Tempe Preparatory Academy in 1996, Tom established significant connections with the area charter schools. He served as the headmaster of the school from 96 to 97. Later, Tom became the founding president of Veritas Preparatory Academy's board of directors. Tom oftentimes challenged me intellectually, and when we go out to lunch, he'd ask me what I was reading, and if it wasn't rigorous enough, I had to make something up. And I'm just really kidding. But I can tell you that rigor, that expectation translated into the classroom. Tom has been a respected colleague of mine, and again, has provided amazing intellectual rigor to our college. So with that, Tom, I'd like you to give the podium to you to say a few things to our board. Tom?
Well, I guess this is my swan song. Before I do, I want to thank Mr. Lopez for his service to our country, and Mr. Lopez and Mr. Chavez for their excellent reports about what students are doing in the Maricopa colleges. And I know that when Paradise Valley has their student report, it will be equally impressive. ASU has nothing on us. Mr. President, members of the governing board, Madam Chancellor, administrators and representatives of the colleges, fellow faculty members, members of the public, and most especially, members of my immediate family. I'm deeply honored to be here this evening to accept this recognition of my service as an educator. In my 50 years in the profession of education, yes, I'm that old, I have served in a variety of positions, each with its unique challenges and rewards. But the last 25 years at Paradise Valley have been the most rewarding. I want to thank my fellow faculty members who have been a constant source of inspiration and encouragement, and who have been examples of excellence, optimism, creativity, and plain old hard work. I wish to thank all the administrators at Paradise Valley who over the years have always striven to develop a student-oriented college of the highest caliber. To single out just one without intending to slight any other important colleagues, Dr. Marilyn Cristiano, fellow professor and chair, where are you, Marilyn? And chair of the communication department, who encouraged and renewed me in the last years of my tenure at the college. She has always been among the most foremost voices for faculty morale, collaborative working conditions, and the pursuit of excellence in teaching. I especially want to thank Dr. Paul Dale, who is the best college president I have had the good fortune to work with. He's a collaborator, a bridge builder, a consistent supporter of faculty effectiveness and student achievement, and someone who has always made it a priority to recognize publicly the accomplishments and awards of both employees and students. He is a morale builder. I also want to thank Dr. Mary Lou Mosley, Vice President of Academic Affairs, who in her various administrative positions has always handled the most delicate situations with fairness, with toughness, but always with compassion, with discretion, and yes, even with love for the well-being of her fellow employees. President, Vice President, administrators, support faculty, and students have all made PVC such a great place for me to work. So often over the years, when people asked me how I liked working at Paradise Valley, my quick response was always, it's almost paradise at Paradise Valley. Finally, I want to thank my wife and children, who have always supported me in my up moments and my down moments, and in the many nights and weekends that I wasn't quite as available as I should be because I was correcting papers and preparing lessons. My kids have always thought I was one of the best teachers around. except, of course, when I was instructing them in some aspect of appropriate behavior. They, too, have always been a part of my paradise. I skipped a paragraph. It's important. I don't want to skip it. All of us here have a vocation, a call to help as many students as possible achieve their academic goals and become the best human beings they are meant to be. That is why all of our roles are important. That is why we support one another. I would like to recognize the governing board members, past and present, public servants who work tirelessly through many meetings, conflict resolutions, balancing budgets, in efforts to make Maricopa one of the best community college systems in the nation. It's a tough job. I've done it myself. And the pay is even lower than that of an adjunct faculty. I close with the firm belief that no real achievement in a complex endeavor such as ours is possible without the support and collaboration of a team of like-minded professionals. Thank you, team, very much. God bless Maricopa Community Colleges and all of our students.
Doctor. Doctor, before you leave the podium, would you care to introduce your family?
Thank you, President Gutierrez. I have trouble remembering all their names.
I understand the feeling.
Sorry?
I understand the feeling. It started happening at 70.
For me, it started happening after I had 5 children. My wife, Jean, a very good friend of the family, Matthew Whitland, my daughter, Catherine, my son, William, my daughter, Monica, Madeline, my daughter, Marisa, my daughter, Catherine, sorry, see what I mean? Elizabeth, and my son, Benjamin. And one of my sons, Kenneth, is not able to be here, but 5 of them have gone through Maricopa Community College and either have completed a degree, I believe that would be, with honor and distinction at ASU, and I've got one working on it. So we do very well at the community colleges. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, Doctor. Dr. Dale.
Thank you, Dr. Butler, for those very kind and gracious comments. And who said we don't have fun at Paradise Valley Community College? It is also my pleasure tonight to recognize our second faculty for recommendation for emeritus status, Mr. Reyes Medrano. And again, allow me to paraphrase some of the highlights from his board nomination. During his over 37 years of service to the Maricopa Community Colleges, Reyes Medrano built a solid foundation of excellence in the classroom, service to the community, and generally an ambassador to our global stages. He has taught a gamut of classes ranging from general business, management, marketing, human relations, human resources, international business, business mathematics, and business statistics. As a leader at Paradise Valley Community College, Reyes also served as a division chair in the Business IT division for 6 years, working tirelessly to strengthen our educational culture. Reyes also accepted a leadership position as president of our Faculty Senate. Additionally, at the district level, many of you also know that Reyes served as the Faculty Senate President of the Faculty Executive Council from 2007-2008. In all those roles, Reyes exercised his duties with integrity and diligence. Reyes traveled quite a bit and did a lot of work to establish our International Studies program. He's an alumnus of the Asian Studies Development Program at the East-West Center. He taught Introduction to Business at WiYu University in China for one summer and participated in a number of missions, trade missions to Mexico. As a Freeman Scholar, Reyes attended the Summer Institute on Japanese Studies at Tokai University. He also attended the Oxford Roundtable of the International Labor Force in Oxford, England. I had the pleasure of visiting Reyes' classrooms a number of times. The last time I was in his classroom was to observe what became known as the Medrano Project. Reyes provided leadership to develop open educational resources where students actually developed, established, and created their textbooks as part of the learning experience. Reyes and his faculty colleagues in the library have presented the Medrano Project both nationally and internationally, demonstrating this opportunity for unprecedented student engagement. Reyes, as a Faculty Senate President, also on numerous occasions had a chance to take me out behind the woodshed as college president, and I do appreciate that candid, direct, and meaningful conversation. He also made significant contributions to our efforts at our college campus to increase the diversity of our faculty and staff. It was through Reyes' leadership that we established a very engaging diversity and inclusion, and I don't want to use the word mandatory, but we use the word mandatory training for all of our faculty members who are involved in the faculty search process. So with a deep amount of pride and a deep amount of friendship, I present to you Mr. Reyes Medrano for consideration for emeritus status.
First, let me say that it's really unfair to put me up here after a communications professor. And I don't prepare speeches, but I will speak from the heart. Maricopa has been my life. I started as a student in 1968, and I'm still teaching. I'm still part-time teaching at Paradise Valley. But let me tell you, it's been a life well lived. Maricopa has given me a very good life. And I consider Maricopa to be one of the, if not the finest institution of our kind in the country. I would say we're at least in the top 3. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to say hello to President Gutierrez, board members, presidents, Chancellor Maria. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and thank you for this honor, Dr. Dale, especially. Thank you for recommending me. It has been a great honor working for Maricopa. I was FEC's president for a couple of years, and let me tell you, I really came to appreciate what great professional faculty members we have in the community college system. As you saw tonight, an example of the students that we produce. And as President Gutierrez pointed out, the amount of success that our students experience after leaving us, that is not an accident. I think we have some of the finest employees in our community college system that exist anywhere. So to be honored like this is truly an honor, and I truly appreciate it. And again, I won't go on because I don't have a communication background. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Emeritus Distinction Awards, Dr. Chris Bustamante.
Yes, Mr. President, may I approach the podium?
Proceed.
Thank you. President Gutierrez, board members, Chancellor Harper-Marinick, CEC colleagues and guests. It is really a great pleasure of mine to be able to recommend Dr. Diana L. Abel to the governing board for consideration for emeritus distinction. Dr. Abel's passion for education began with her own personal journey in education. Like many of our students, life happened to her as well, and she left college at the young age of 20 to get married and to start her own family. 19 years later, she found that she needed an education to improve her skills as an executive director of a nonprofit organization. Previous attempts to return to a traditional university to complete her degree left her uncertain of her ability to earn a degree. In 1990, she attended a training through the state of Arizona, which was part of an educational service partnership of an institution none other than Rio Salado College. This led to the award of college credit and a credential that she needed for her job. And she says this experience gave her the confidence that she really needed to successfully return to college. She enrolled at Ottawa University, and 12 months later, she graduated with a BA in Human Resource Management. Following this, she became an adjunct faculty member at Mesa Community College and found that she had a passion for teaching adult students and also an opportunity for a midlife career change. 2 years later, she earned a master's degree in human development and became a residential faculty member at Glendale Community College. So she's been around the district. Diana then went on to earn her doctorate in curriculum and instruction in adult education. 10 years ago, Diana was given the opportunity to create a new program at Rio Salado College, an early childhood development program. And her college experience had come full circle, and she found herself assisting students at Rio Salado, where she began her journey in a similar situation as a working adult. Dr. Abel had a long career at Maricopa and worked here for 18 years. She's given her all and made significant contributions to the early childhood field and student learning. She created innovative programs that introduced family child care providers and early childhood directors and administrators to pertinent best practices. She laid the foundation of 4 innovative early childhood degrees and 6 certificate programs by authoring or co-authoring 40 district courses. In addition, her child care director program at Rio Salado College was funded by the First Things First organization in a grant for the 7th year and was recognized as an exemplary best practices initiative. This program has resulted in significant student learning outcomes that support the nation's goal to improve early childhood education. She also grew the early childhood program at Rio to become the largest program in the state of Arizona. In addition, she has authored 4 multi-year grants for Glendale Community College and/or Rio Salado College. Dr. Abel not only contributed to student learning and improvement in the early childhood field, but also used her expertise to benefit the work of faculty district-wide. In addition to serving as faculty chair of the early childhood department at Rio Salado, she served as the faculty chair for the district internationalizing the curriculum project and as a curriculum design facilitator for Glendale and Mesa community colleges. Dr. Abel, I would like to express my personal appreciation to you for your many contributions to the early childhood field, the district, and most importantly, our students. So I would like to invite you at this time to say a few words to all of us.
Good evening, President Gutierrez, governing board members, Maria, I should be more formal, Chancellor Harper-Marinick. Maria and I have gone on trips together, so I have some travel time with her. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for approving this wonderful recognition. Of all the professional recognitions that I've received, this is the very best and the most meaningful. So please know that is very heartfelt. As my colleague Rhea says, it's very heartfelt. And no, I'm not a communications instructor, so I did not prepare any notes. and Dr. Butler is a very hard act to follow. I would also like to thank who I believe is the best president in the Maricopa system. That would be Dr. B, for submitting my name, and for the very best boss in all of Maricopa, and that would be our acting vice president of academic affairs, Dana Reed, for nominating me and having faith in me and giving me a lot of support to start a program. It's not easy starting something from nothing, but if you dream it, Rio makes it happen. And so my dreams came true. When I got the opportunity to transfer from Mesa to Rio, I told people I didn't die and went to heaven. I died and went to Rio. And when I went from Glendale to Mesa, I had to cart my own stuff in a family trailer and in the car. When I transferred from Mesa to Rio, they came and got me in a Rio van. All I had to do was carry my purse out the door. It was really a very uplifting experience. And I didn't have to paint the walls of my office and didn't have to bring my own furniture with me. So I did die and go to heaven. I died and went to Rio. I would like to encourage you, President Gutierrez, to continue to say extraordinary when you describe the service that we do provide. I am Maricopa born and bred, much like Reyes. I would like to thank Doyle Burke. He may not remember, but in 1968, I was an able and ambitious student, a high school student at McClintock High School, and a freshman English student at Mesa Community. Doyle set me on the road to a great academic career. And many times I thought of him as I was writing my dissertation over and over and over and over again. And I kept thinking of the 5-paragraph standard that Doyle taught back in the 80s, back in the 60s. The other thing is that I have 3 children. My children are Maricopa born and raised. They either have transferred to universities and or completed their degree. Both of my son-in-laws, Maricopa born and raised, as was my late husband. We believe in the Maricopa system. I always thought it was kind of odd when I would teach next to someone who would send their child as a freshman to another college that will remain unnamed and didn't send it to the homegrown place, because if it's good enough for us to teach here, it should be good enough for us kids to go to school here. When Mr. Burke, when my children were students at Mesa Community College in the 90s, they had to take your English class if they wanted me to continue to pay their car insurance. And one of my daughters would come home and she said, "He's really hard." And I said, "I know he is, but you're going to learn to write really well." And that daughter is in the audience tonight and is a high school teacher at McClintock High School. So there you go. So I would like to thank my family who are with me this evening. Unfortunately, my oldest daughter is a computer analyst for a software company and has gone to a convention in Las Vegas. So, but representing her is my granddaughter, who's a dual enrollment student at Corona del Sol and Rio Salado College. So my family would stand. My son, Derek, who teaches at Central Arizona College. My granddaughter, Megan. My son-in-law, Chris. My daughter, Deanna. And then I have 2 soul sisters in the audience. My very good friend, Kathy Ehrlich, and my former partner in crime at Rio Salado, Renee Manning. Family is not just who you're related to by blood or marriage, but who you invite into your heart. And tonight I would like to say thank you to my family for all their support. This part, pardon me, is really hard. My husband of 44 years died in December of early onset Alzheimer's. And it is in his memory that Rio Salado will be presenting to you for board approval sometime in the next year a degree for those who care for people in assisted living. I was dismayed when I went to find a place to place him 2.5 years ago. The assisted living profession is in the same sorry state that the early childhood profession was in the state 35 years ago. With Dr. Bustamante and with VP Reed's permission and support, we began the process of writing a degree and courses. And I leave that behind as part of my legacy that I dedicate to my husband. All of us should be very concerned about the lack of education for people who work in assisted living programs. So thank you for letting me make that pitch. And I dedicate this honor tonight to my husband. Without his support in my 40s, I would have never gone back to graduate school. And his favorite thing, he was a 25-year veteran of the Phoenix Police Department. His favorite thing to say to me as I go out the door to go to school was, "Go Diana." So Dave, this is for you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Burke.
Dr. Abel,
Yes, sorry.
you have made my day. Now, and years from now, your students will make your day.
Absolutely. And Mr. Burke, I appreciate the A's that you helped me earn.
Any other comments? Thank you all very much. Before we go to citizens interim, let me mention the substitutions for today. For President Olson, Dr. Janet Ortega. For President Paul Dale, even though he's here, Vice President Veronica Garcia. For President Pan, Roger Yohi. And for President Lara, Charles Nuanquo.
I see President
Guerrero, not
Guerrero.
That's for Guerrero, that's at Chandler Building.
True, Chandler Gilbert. Okay. Let me point out that I blew it again. For those of you keeping score, mostly I'm losing. So I, as soon as somebody writes that name down that I need to correct, I will be happy to announce it.
Is President Guerrero, Janet Gilbert, who's absent, and President Lara is right here with us.
All right. I thought that was you. I said to myself, Jesus, they found a guy that looks just like him. So I apologize to everybody involved.
Well,
Let's do something serious.
Mr. President.
Mr. Burke.
In your defense, he is a master of stealth.
A master of stealth. I think he was a stealth guy in the Army. That's what I think. We're going to citizens interim. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the governing board. In compliance with the Open Meetings Law, the governing board will neither discuss nor take action on issues raised during this portion of this agenda. When necessary, issues will be taken under advisement and perhaps placed on a subsequent agenda. So with that in mind, I will notice you at 4 minutes so you can begin wrapping up your comments. I will call them up as they have received them. Ms. Elizabeth.
Well, let's see if I can remember. Good evening, President Gutierrez, CEC, chancellors, vice chancellors. Maria. I've got to notice there's several PVC people that I worked with here that have lost a lot of weight since we left. What is up with that? So.
Some of us have gained weight.
Anyways, every single one of them here tonight are excellent, excellent faculty, and it was my honor to work with each of them. They did have to follow some of my instructions, providing accommodations for students with disabilities, and it was enjoyable working with each and every one of them that's here tonight. Mr. Heap, holy mackerel. That must be our new mantra. I'll tell you, I feel bad. I feel bad that I'm going to bring out some wrongs that need to be righted. They've been going on for a while. I've been gone 3.5 years. I'm back. I'm not afraid to bring them out. Personally, I am happy to see Dr. Glasper go. When he first was our chancellor, he was a great leader. He brought us into 2008 where we were losing, where the recession hit. He brought us in to such a great financial position to where we retained most, if not all, our employees. But I ask, what happened the last 7 years? I see a once great leader that had lost passion, honesty, truth, interest, fairness, responsibility, greed, thousands of unaccounted dollars, millions in fines and lawsuits. I ask, what has happened? In the January meeting, President Gutierrez, you caught my attention for when I was calling out Vice Chancellor Johnson. And I do apologize for my passion. Sometimes it does get out of hand. But I have a passion for people being treated fairly. And bully mentality does not belong in this district. And it is a shame that it continues. I'm hoping with our new leadership, eyes are open, decisions will be made. The power of 7 will step up to the power of 1. I am hoping that the board takes back their authority that they have as a 7 over the HR department. It is a shame that people are being fired. Let me give you an update on 2 employees. One employee I worked for 6 years with, passionate with students with disabilities, volunteered his time for 6 years. And when his disability ended, he was told he would have a faculty position. He took that to heart. Let me give you an update on Steve. Steve passed away last August. His heart was broken. He did not get that position. Another employee, Andy Hellman, was fired. He lost his car, he's lost his house, he's on the street. He's contacted me. I've tried to help him pull his funds from the state of Arizona so he can get himself off the street. We used to care about our employees. We used to help our employees.
You're at 4 minutes, Miss
Okay.
Elizabeth.
So if I'm going to take the time to complain and bring out the wrongs of others, this is what I'm going to do. Let me leave you with this. With all these horrific situations that have happened since I left Maricopa nearly 4 years ago, changes need to be made. Out with the old and in with the new. I have a passion for these district students and all employees. I have made the decision to run for a governing board position. I'm going to join Johanna Havar and Jean McGrath. I am going to educate. We are going to collaborate. We are going to mandate. We are going to facilitate. We are going to approve. And we are going to deny. We are going to take our position as a power of 7 and not the power of 1. I'm going to join some of you, fine people, hopefully this next election. I will be elected. I do thank this board for the work they have done. I thank Maria Marinick Harper. Harper Marinick, Maria, I think you are a wonderful, wonderful person, wonderful leader. You have taken the first step by not approving the 2%. And Pastor Dale, sorry.
Ms. Elizabeth, you've arrived at your time.
I thank you, and it's awesome to see you in your position also. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Judith Clark?
Good evening, President Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor Harper Marinick, members of CED, and fellow community members. I'm going to share observations regarding the One Maricopa workforce, also known as OMW, which was brought to life and sanctioned by the governing board as a money-saving proposition. I dislike being misled. I dislike misinformation being published for others to consume, not realizing they are being misled. I'm sure that by now the 7 of you have the magic figure of how much money OMW is saving Maricopa, especially with the passing of the 16-17 budget. Although maybe not if you read the Arizona Republic article, or perhaps you are hearing that the sweep of accounts from employee groups will fund this endeavor. We already know that besides a substantial number of man-hours, tabulation of vote results and writing of policy will cost money. By the way, the last 2 never cost the district in the past, and the first one never had representatives meeting weekly for day-long sessions. One Maricopa workforce identifies several non-money saving propositions. It's going to have a budget. It expects to receive money to be deposited into its accounts. It expects to make purchases. It expects to pay members to perform as elected representatives. I don't see any of that as money saving. Employer-driven representation, employee-driven representation. The National Labor Relations Board distinguishes between the two for good reason. It recognizes that employers cannot speak on behalf of employees regarding employee interests because it is a conflict. In fact, NLRB protects non-governmental employees from employers dominating and or interfering in employee representation. Maricopa is changing from employee-driven representation to employer-driven representation. A vice chancellor sitting in on committee meetings embodies everything that is employer-driven representation. The constant presence of a district administrator disenfranchises employees in what is promoted as an employee process. One Maricopa workforce expects to fundraise, and I thought we already had a foundation and alumni that do that. It expects to conduct closed meetings. Only authorized members may be present, even though Maricopa is a government entity. None of the roles identify representation as a duty. OMW may, not will or shall, but may participate in collaborative policy development. That one word allows a lot of leeway on the part of administration to disenfranchise employees. It states no benefits are being lost. I guess that's true if you don't count losing a level of grievance and a new way to calculate overtime pay. It's going to sweep accounts created to house employee group dues without the agreement of those dues-paying employees. It saddens me that the 7 of you are comfortable supporting this endeavor that only 106 employees provided input on. You have quite a few more than 100 employees, some 5,000 plus full-time, which is like 0.005% that gave input on it, something like that. A math teacher can correct me. I feel a huge joke is being enjoyed at the expense of Maricopa employees. I'm impressed and yet frightened by your ability to not address the faux employee representation soon to be visited on them. How you as elected representatives yourselves can casually support the fake representation soon to be executed under your watch is an exercise in spot-on politics. Not only are you aware that governing board action in December 2014 violates state law, you are aware employees were not given the opportunity to weigh in on consolidation of employee groups by way of a vote. Now employees are being told that funds collected from them for dues for an association that is a separate entity from Maricopa will not be used in the manner members direct, but in the manner non-members direct. Keep in mind that when you are told everything is rainbows and unicorns, that's when questions need to be raised. So my question is, what are you gaining by the outcome for consolidating employee groups within Maricopa that compels the 7 of you to take no action? While day-to-day operations are...
You're arriving at your 5 minutes. You please start wrapping
I
up.
have 2 sentences.
You go.
While day-to-day operations are the purview of the Chancellor, events affecting board outcome are yours, and I see quite plainly how employees impact board outcomes. I know, too, that you have been told that employees are not your responsibility. However, they are the face of Maricopa and deserving of your interest in their welfare. The conclusion drawn is that just as you choose to not provide a forum for constituents, you choose to take away the forum previously afforded your employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Ms. Donna Owens.
Good evening, President Gutierrez, governing board members, CEC, Chancellor Maria Harper Marinick, and guests. First, I would like to thank you for this opportunity to speak with you this evening. I come before you as a concerned Maricopa citizen, a student of the Maricopa School District, and as an employee. My concern is more of a fear for the future of Maricopa Community College School District with the implementation of the One Maricopa workforce. It has been my experience that every time someone from the employee group, the Professional Staff Association, asked our rep from OMW questions, the response were, "I don't know," or "I will get back to you on that." We never got the responses to our questions. I had the chance to attend a PSA meeting at Phoenix College this past summer where the OMW rep for PSA attended. When we asked the questions, we received the same answers, "I don't know," or "I will get back to you on that." I have taken it upon myself to speak with representatives from other employee groups, and unfortunately, they too have had the same experiences. No answers. Due to the responses they have experienced, they do not plan on staying involved in employee groups at the district level. A concern was brought to my attention last week, but I wanted to research it first and make sure for myself that indeed it was correct information. It appears that OMW has planned for the current group's funds held at Maricopa. I had to do some digging to find the information. It was not out there and easily accessed information. I had to do a lot of digging in the Maricopian to find it. Under the frequently asked questions, the question was, what will happen to the current group funds held by Maricopa? How can one group be sure that their funds will be used to support their wishes once the Classified Staff Council, CSC, is in place? Answer. Any employee group funds, even those collected from private dues or donations that are held in the district accounts, must be spent in accordance with district guidelines. Once the new CSC is formed, one of the tasks will be to survey the classified staff to determine how they would like to see the money spent within district guidelines. For about 12 years, Australia Mountain Community College PSA has had various fundraisers, and we've raised money for student scholarships. We have two accounts. We have our PSA General Fund account, which holds about $6,000, and that's from our personal paychecks, our money. And then we have a second account, and that's our student scholarship account. Currently we have $16,000 in there, and we've raised that ourselves with our own blood, sweat, and tears. And please keep in mind, we've been issuing student scholarships, so we've raised a lot more money than that. The $6,000 that's in there, that's our seed money that we use to buy flowers for graduation, boograms, that we use to buy our supplies so we can raise the student scholarship money. So if you allow the OMW to take control of those funds, they'll take control of this. They'll take control of the student scholarships. And then our students will not benefit by the money that we currently house in Maricopa. So it appears when it comes to One Maricopa OMW, there is a different set of rules. We should always have the freedom to speak up, ask questions, and question the decision-making process. For the few who have spoken up and asked about the process, they were shut down. Where's the transparency that we so frequently speak of? We live in America, and many have shed their blood for us to be here today, to have the freedom to speak up and ask questions without being penalized. OMW has created an environment of fear. People are afraid to speak up because they are afraid of retaliation. There has been too many secrecy, unanswered questions, and in the end, it will be our students who suffer. We are an educational institution and encourage our students to speak up and ask questions. I know, my time's almost up. As employees, we too should be able to ask questions. Please, as the board for Maricopa, speak to the employees at the campuses you represent and ask them how they feel about the expenditure decision-making processes and the silos of secrecy that have been created from the One Maricopa. Our tax dollars could have been better spent, and we could have helped so many more students through scholarship opportunities with the time and money that was spent on this. I implore you to please reconsider the implementation of the One Maricopa workforce. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. The next item on the agenda is a President's report. This is an unusual item, but it is in response to an action taken by this board for an independent investigation. On January 26, 2016, the majority of the governing board voted to retain independent counsel to investigate the circumstances surrounding the district's award of a contract to a consulting firm without prior approval of this governing board, as required by governing board policy. The contract involved the performance of consulting services for a district-wide classification and compensation study. The independent investigation is now completed. Its findings are explained in a detailed public report prepared by the investigators. The investigation found that the violation of board policy was not the result of any intentional or reckless misconduct. Rather, it was an inadvertent mistake due to a series of internal errors by both the Human Resources Department, as the department that requested the contract, and the Purchasing Department, as the department responsible for the management of contracting for purchasing services. The error was due in part to a lack of shared responsibility between the HR and purchasing departments, and in part due to a lack of understanding, training, and leadership by the purchasing department that oversees such contractual issues. There was no violation of state law or federal law. The violation was one of Maricopa policy. All of the findings and the complete report, all of the data, is being shared with the Attorney General for the Attorney General's review of all of the data that has been gathered. Nonetheless, ultimately, this was a significant error that should not have happened. Both Vice Chancellor Shelton Johnson and Vice Chancellor Deborah Thompson have fully cooperated with the investigation and acknowledged their respective responsibility for the error and have taken immediate corrective steps to put in place comprehensive new procedures and effective remedial actions to prevent any reoccurrence of this situation or any other violation of district policies. On behalf of the board, where we express our disappointment regarding the violation of board policy, I must say that we are pleased with both vice chancellors and their staff for taking to heart the recommendations of the report and have taken prompt steps to proactively implement them. I'm running out of time. I better wrap up quick. I got 3 sentences. We have also made clear that we expect all district leadership to be familiar with board policies and to take immediate and all necessary steps to ensure that staff complies with board policies. The report is now public and may be viewed in the Legal Services Department, and copies of the report may be requested. So it is a public report. That is the statement of the President. Is there any questions on that item? If not, Chancellor, the Chancellor's report.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez and members of the board. We have the legislative briefing coming up, but before we do that, I wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you to all of you board members for placing your trust during the interim period in my ability to lead our great system. It's a system for which I care deeply. I promise to lead with honor and humility and with the same commitment to excellence, integrity, transparency, stewardship, collaboration, inclusiveness, fairness, and respect with which I had served as the Executive Vice Chancellor and Provost. Though we're going through a transition and we'll have to face the inevitable changes that come with a transition, I have full confidence that we will maintain our focus on what is important for all of us, and that is the service to our community and ensuring that our doors remain open to all who seek to improve their lives through education and training. None of that would be able to happen unless we had great people in the system. So I want to say thank you to the vice chancellors, the college presidents, the faculty, the staff, the students, and everyone who is part of the Maricopa community for their support and their dedication to our mission of access to excellent education and, of course, to the success of our students. So thank you very much for your support of myself. And I will now ask Mr. Ryan DeMena to please come to the podium and present the legislative update.
Thank you, Chancellor. President Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor Harper-Marinick, members of CEC, and all others present. I'm here this evening to provide you with a brief legislative update. Today marks the 72nd day of the 52nd Legislature's second regular session. This year, a total of 1,219 pieces of legislation and 108 memorials and resolutions were introduced. To date, 68 bills have been passed, and 56 of those bills have been signed by Governor Ducey. In my last update, I was happy to report that the Community College's expenditure limitation legislation, Senate Bill 1322, had passed out of the Senate. Earlier this month, the legislation received the approval of the House Government and Higher Education Committee. At this hearing, we were very pleased to have Chancellor Harper-Marinick in attendance, as well as Ms. Haver and Mr. Saar. In fact, Ms. Haver testified to the committee in support of the bill. Just yesterday, the House of Representatives passed Senate Bill 1322 by a vote of 39 ayes, 18 nays, and 3 not voting. Earlier today, the legislation was transmitted to the governor, and we are presently generating as much support for the bill with Governor Ducey as possible. In my previous update, I also mentioned legislation introduced by Representative Anthony Kern and Paul Boyer, attempting to address free speech on university and community college campuses. Since that update, the Boyer legislation was held in the Senate Judiciary Committee, while the Kern bill has been drastically amended and is presently awaiting a hearing in the Senate Rules Committee. I also mentioned the perennial issue of guns on campus legislation, and this year there are roughly 10 of these bills. The debate this year, however, seems to have focused on House Bill 2338. As introduced, House Bill 2338 would prohibit the governing board of an educational institution from banning the possession of a concealed weapon in the person's vehicle on a right-of-way. I'm happy to report that since my last update, this bill was amended to exclude property of an educational institution. I'd like to thank the district staff that supports DeMena Associates in these efforts. It's a pleasure working with Eddie, Judy, Debbie, Gay, Ilya, others. As always, we'll be sure to provide you with additional updates as the legislative session progresses. And with that, I'm happy to stand for questions.
Any questions of Mr. DeMena?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for a pretty great report, and thank you for getting a bill out that I frankly didn't think when we first started discussing this, that there was much opportunity this year for moving it forward. So I want to thank you and your associates for a pretty extraordinary effort.
Thank you, President Gutierrez. We appreciate that. Thank you, members.
Thank you. Chancellor, does that complete your report?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez.
The next item is the Vice Chancellor Human Resources Report.
Permission to approach the podium?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, President Gutierrez, governing board members, interim Chancellor Harper-Marinick, Dr. Harper-Marinick, CEC colleagues, and distinguished guests. I am pleased to share 2 important updates with you regarding how Maricopa is working to strengthen the pipeline for employee voice. Both are history-making events for Maricopa. In early April, we will be deploying our first ever district-wide employee engagement survey. The survey will go to all employees and will seek to determine the individual and collective perspective on the employment experience. This valuable feedback will be used to assist our organization with responding to those issues that employees have identified as important. This effort directly and positively relates to Chancellor Limitation Number 2, treatment of faculty and staff, as it allows for specific questions regarding employee satisfaction to be asked and answered all throughout the organization, thus enabling leadership to respond in meaningful ways that seek to improve and enhance the employment atmosphere. A special thank you to Interim Chancellor Dr. Harper Marinick for her leadership in supporting this direction. Additionally, this effort also supports Maricopa's Strategic Plan Goal Number 4 of organizational integrity, as well as related HR Strategic Plan Goals 3 and 5. The second history-making event for Maricopa is the transformation to One Maricopa Workforce. This is the transformation of our current 5 staff employee groups to 1. Elections for this momentous occasion will run from May 2nd to May 6th. And now I'd like to invite some of the members of the OMW committee to the podium to join me. Joining me is Chris Bliss, current MAT president, Shannon Ridgway Monaco, PSA representative, Adrian Hicks, PSA representative, Isaac Torres, PSA representative, and Michael Fulton, public safety, as well as Brachelle McMurray, senior HR manager and One Maricopa Workforce project manager. The transformation to One Maricopa Workforce, or OMW, began over a year ago with the committee convening last April. To kick off things, we visited all 10 colleges and district offices to share information about what the transformation was and what it was not. Collectively, over 300 employees attended these sessions. We also streamed these sessions live and later made them available when we launched the OMW website the following month. The OMW website was launched to serve as a place where not only all information regarding the transformation was made available, but also as a means to gather employee input. Employees were asked to identify their interests with regards to employee group representation and submit questions to which responses were provided. This created the FAQ section of the OMW pages. To date, we've received 140 questions, some of which were duplicative, so were combined, and 102 responses submitted in response to the "What are your interests regarding employee group representation?" Some of the themes that emerged included ensuring that all employees of different types and grades have representation, more unity and less division, and fair representation across all classifications. It is the feedback that the OMW committee has used to shape the new model, and it is these interests that the committee continue to revisit to help inform our direction. In addition to this, multiple modes of communication were explored and engaged, including posting a summary of each OMW committee meeting that was held. A communications professional from the marketing department was added to the committee to assist with strengthening the updates that were sent out to all employees regarding progress. These summaries were emailed to all employees, posted in the Maricopan, the district-wide employee newsletter, and archived on the OMW website. These multiple methods of communication were employed as to ensure that the information regarding the transformation cascade throughout the district and in ways that would satisfy various preferred styles of communication. The committee has truly embraced the spirit of continuous improvement by identifying and embracing opportunities to improve communications based on feedback received from fellow employees, as well as observations regarding change efforts and how to best manage and implement these changes. The committee has also built in a 3-year review process that examines progress and effectiveness for allowing for modifications and improvements to be made as necessary. Recently, we've begun to return back to the campuses and district offices to discuss the upcoming Classified Staff Council elections. The Classified Staff Council, or CSC, will replace the current 5 separate staff groups once the CSC elections are completed and elected employees are seated in July 2016. The OMW committee will outline its sunset plan, keeping in mind the commitment to have rigorous check-ins to assess progress and experiences under the new structure, making necessary adjustments as needed. What is most noteworthy and important about these combined employee group meetings is that they, for the first time in our history, have begun to put into practice bringing together classifications of employees, all classifications of employees to share information and identify interests. This movement is truly a reflection of One Maricopa, a One Maricopa workforce. Meetings have been held at over half of our college locations and the rest have been scheduled. Over 200 employees have attended thus far. And the meetings have been held at various times to accommodate all of the different work schedules. The meetings have been very inclusive with representatives from all groups at nearly all of the meetings. Many of the questions posed have to do with the election process itself, such as how the voting will work and who is eligible to run. All of this information is also available on the website. The OMW committee members that stand here with me have not only been present for these recent staff visits, but they have worked tirelessly to coordinate and facilitate them. They have emerged as true leaders, stepping up to engage with employees all around the district to dialogue about the Maricopa history-making CSC elections. They have demonstrated unwavering courage, systems thinking, and a true understanding of the power of unity. And now I'd like to turn the podium over to the OMW committee members who are in attendance tonight.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Shelton Johnson. So my name is Chris Bliss, and I'm the current MAP president. For those of you who are friends with me, I know I have a few in the crowd that are friends with me on Facebook, that know me as a person, leadership is very important to me. I'm a member of Leadership, which is, as Dana Sarr knows, a national organization for college students. And I get to travel around the United States and do leadership institutes for college students. So every day I get a quote. I get a leadership quote, and I love it. I post it on my Facebook, and the quote that I got when I was requested to write my statement for today, I thought summed up exactly the process and what we've gone through. And that quote was, "To be outstanding, get comfortable with being uncomfortable." That perfectly sums up what we've been through. We are outstanding and will be even more outstanding when it's up and running, the CSC, and we certainly have had to be comfortable with the uncomfortable as we've been moving through this whole process. So far, participating in this has taught me quite a bit, both personally and professionally. One of the biggest takeaways for me will be the trust and relationships that have been built. We as employee group leaders have learned how to trust one another, knowing and believing our intentions are true and good. We have had to learn to listen and work as a team in a variety of aspects, leaning on each other's expertise and wisdom when needed. It hasn't been the easiest of journeys, but it has been so worth it. It has been difficult at times, helping people to understand what it is we have been working on and what the benefit is to employees. Change is difficult and uncomfortable. However, I think a corner has been turned with the on-campus visits. I think these have made a big difference in helping all employees understand what work has been done. I am proud to have played a role in this innovation we are all a part of, helping employees have a more unified and stronger voice, and keeping Maricopa moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bliss.
Thank you, Chris. Hello, good evening. I am Shannon Ridgway Monaco, and I represent PSA in the CPD process here at Maricopa. The only thing that is constant is change. This can be a scary reality for some, but working on the One Maricopa Workforce Initiative has been a very rewarding experience and an exciting exercise in transforming our culture. The committee members are actively working together to tackle the huge task of merging the classified staff from 5 groups into one. The move to a unified class staff employee group is an example of a change that will impact employees within the district for decades to come. To say this is an enormous task is an understatement, but one that I can personally attest has been very valuable in many ways. We've been able to exchange ideas, listen actively to one another, and identify the needs of employees throughout the district. It can be a daunting task to represent the thousands of classified staff, recognizing their fears while forging a new future, but with the diverse ideas at the table, with employee representatives from all the existing groups, we have created an environment that allows for all voices to be heard. We have visited many campuses already to speak about our progress and inform employees about the new Classified Staff Council and how they can get involved. We've encouraged employees to ask questions and share their ideas. An informed employee is a stronger employee, and in turn, we become a stronger district. We continue to encourage employees to participate and be informed, and our hope is that we, the classified staff employees, will emerge unified and strengthened by the process of this immense change and culture shift. We will speak with interests at heart, not positions, and we will be able to be a part of the process more than ever before and ensure our voices are heard. Thank you.
Good evening, President Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board, Interim Chancellor Dr. Harper Marinick, members of CEC, and guests. My name is Rochelle McMurray. I am the One Maricopa Workforce Project Manager, and from that lens, I have to be nimble, stay fluid to the process by developing a variety of communication methods which best serve our employees' different learning styles. I see the big picture and foster relationships throughout the district to inform, engage, and encourage employee feedback. I practice active listening, getting to the heart of what employees might be fearful or uncertain about. I leverage that information to identify gaps and illustrate responsiveness to their concerns. I am accessible to any employee who desires to be heard or who desires an individual dialogue. My presence at local site employee group meetings show my commitment to this cause, where employees feel comfortable coming directly to me to ask critical questions and have that critical conversation. Through this experience, I have recognized that this has truly been employee-led. I am proud to be their support system, empowered to embrace the role of a change agent, confident and elated to actively engage with others to hear and capture their perspectives. I acknowledge that I stand on the shoulders who have and continue to make a difference at Maricopa. I see that my former president, and he's my former only because I'm not there, Australia Mountain, Dr. Lara, I stand on your shoulders. I stand on the shoulders of others that are sitting here amongst us from the CEC membership. Also from the colleagues that I work with daily, from the students that I learn from when I speak to them. And for that, we all try to make a difference here at Maricopa. Change is constant, as Shannon has communicated. And I have recognized that I am a champion of change, activist for Maricopa's future, an advocate for positive direction and outcomes that lead to infinite possibilities for One Maricopa Workforce. As a long-time serving employee of Maricopa, I have witnessed Maricopa's struggles, accomplishments, and adjustments. I am now looking forward to us together achieving one big milestone that we can celebrate, and that is becoming a unified voice as a classified staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McMurray. Vice Chancellor, we are running into some time issues, and I know there's going to be some questions by members of the board, and I know you have others to be heard. Can we ask them to be relatively brief if you possibly can? Thank you. Please proceed forward.
Well, being a business major, being efficient is what I learned in college. So, President Gutierrez, governing board members, Chancellor Dr. Harper Marinick, and esteemed colleagues and guests. My name is Isaac Torres, and I'm currently our Professional Staff Association president at Glendale Community College and a member of the OMW committee. So we've gone through a lot of change, and as we know, change can be difficult. I remember when me and my wife first got married and moved in together, it was very different. And I learned things like you put your socks in the laundry hamper and you put your dishes in the sink. But as we got better together, we grew together, we grew stronger together. And as we grow through this, we grow when things are uncomfortable. And so we've really learned a lot collectively as an employee group, and we're really excited for the result of that with this upcoming elections and the future possibilities we have as a unified group. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Torres.
if I may, President Gutierrez, allow me the opportunity to thank Shannon and Adrian and Chris and Rochelle and Michael and Isaac and the other OMW committee members, past and present, who could not attend tonight. I want to thank you for your commitment, for your diligence, your strength, your integrity, creativity, and hard work. You have truly modeled the way for how to bring about positive change in the face of adversity. You have helped other employees to catch this vision. I am privileged and honored to have had the opportunity to work with each of you and to lead this outstanding committee. Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Vice Chancellor, I have a question,
Yes.
and I'm sure there may be others. But my question is on the employee-wide assessment that you mentioned in your opening remarks. Does that provide for some open-ended questions where employees can expand their comments, or is it simply do you select from the list that you provide? That's question number one. And two, is it confidential? Will each employee be able to respond to it in a confidential manner so that fears of consequences, in case they are critical, are allayed?
Yes, thank you for those questions, President Gutierrez, members of the board. The survey will have a combination of multiple choice questions and open-ended. So one of the best practices, if you will, or most effective ways of really getting that individual and collective feedback is to ask both of those types of questions. So it will be both, the quantitative and qualitative. And in response to your second question, it will absolutely be an anonymous survey.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Ms. McGrath?
Thank you, President Gutierrez. I hate to prolong this overly long discussion, but I'm very concerned about the funds that Ms. Owens mentioned that they have raised. How are those going to be controlled from now on? Is Ms. Owens' group going to be able to control those, or is the control going to be turned over to someone else?
We're still working through that. As I understand it, the way that the funds have worked, and I'm not in the business services area, so I won't do this explanation justice, but the way the funds have been set up are using accounts that, help me, Debbie, if you can on this, but they're using, the district has helped to facilitate the setup of those accounts, and by virtue of doing that, they fall under guidelines in terms of requirements of how those funds are sent. So we've been exploring ways to make sure that the employees who have donated to those funds have influence and control over how it's spent, while making sure that we're adhering to whatever regulations we have to, given the way it was set up.
That wasn't quite as straightforward as I was hoping for. I'm hoping that perhaps there will be a committee made up of Ms. Owens and her fellow fundraisers to control that rather than people at the district office. Thank you, President Gutierrez, for this opportunity.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for that comment, Ms. McGrath. We'll take that into consideration, absolutely.
Just a quick comment. I realize the time. When I came upon this board, I stood for the One Maricopa system, and I still do. I caution all of us to remember, and the presidents at the colleges, that while we are in a position of change and growth, this is almost a product of necessity. And I state that because I live it. All of the districts, as they've grown larger, and in our baby school districts, our K-12s, have had to go to some sort of this type of situation. I do hope that we don't lose our sense of community in all of this, that we still bring about that and celebrate it. As for the surveys and whatnot, I will say, and I do really hope that none of the teachers, professors, whatnot, get concerned about this, because it's already happened at the K-12 area. We don't write the truth. And I hope you foster, and the colleges foster, this sense of giving the truth. Because I will say there has been retribution in the K-12 area, and I'm not speaking from personal experience, but I'm just stating that, and then that begets fear. And so how it starts and how it ends, I don't know, but I do really hope that we do, as a board and as a college system, make sure that each and every voice is still heard and that community spirit is still alive, because that's what brought us about 4 colleges a very, very long time ago. And so I hope we don't forget that. But I do believe growth and change equate one Maricopa. And I thank you for all your work. I thank everybody for the work that they've put in. It's amazing. Thank you.
Mr. Sar.
Just to follow up, I have the same concerns about the financial side of things and where the money that has been earned and has been dedicated to different elements, including scholarships. I don't want to see that change. I think that's a big part of what each of the colleges do for their students, and I think anything we can do to maintain that involvement of staff in those endeavors is worth saving. I understand change, but I also know that there are some things that are working and there's no sense changing those. Secondly, when it comes to the board and its work with staff and faculty, that we have a policy that says that we cannot allow procedures or conditions that are unfair, unsafe, or undignified. And in our ability to monitor that, we hope that any individual, staff or otherwise, that feels we are not in compliance as a district in those 3 areas, come to the board. That is our job, to monitor. So the communication to the board is not closed. We have a process that we go through in monitoring and in holding the district accountable to our policies. So we'll follow those as well. But I hope everybody understands that our policies are important to us, as is the monitoring of those. So thank you.
Further comments? Vice Chancellor, as you know from the very beginning, I've had hesitations about collapsing 5 groups into one, and whether those 5 separate and distinct issues, separate and distinct working conditions, separate and distinct immediate missions, even though we all have the grander and larger mission of the colleges, but nonetheless in the specific areas that they work, could be fairly represented by one council. I continue to have those hesitations. I am very happy that you're, at least, I shouldn't say very happy because I'm not happy at all. I am at least allayed of some of my great concerns because you've taken the opportunity to include as many people as you can. All of the 5 groups are involved. All of the colleges are involved. So I remain slightly skeptical, but I will be overseeing this process to be sure that at the end of the day, every employee feels represented. That's the goal here, and if you can do it as one, perhaps there's something to be said for that. But I will continue to scrutinize this process. But thank you very much for your report. Thank all of you who have been working at this. I know it has indeed been controversial, even with me. But nonetheless, thank you for your work.
Thank you, governing board members. We appreciate your comments and your engagement in this process. Thank you.
We now move to the approval of the order of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion. If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consideration of the consent agenda items. Does anyone wish to remove any items from the consent agenda?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. consideration of non-consent action items. Business services, 17.1, approval of final construction contract amendment for the remodel and expansion of the social behavioral nursing buildings at Scottsdale. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the board, as a result of this project, the new and remodeled facility will consolidate instructional spaces, student support, and faculty and adjunct offices for the Social Behavioral Science Division into a single location. The work in the buildings includes ADA restroom upgrades, replacement of existing fire alarm system, addition of a new automatic fire sprinkler system, and removal and replacement of the main mechanical labs in the buildings, and we recommend its approval.
You've heard the description. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor
Aye.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. 17.2, approved job order contracting purchase order for remodeling in the music building at Mesa. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is a remodeling of the music building. It was constructed in 1969, and since then, these many years later, it's only received minor improvements. So the college would like to refresh and remodel approximately 14,900 square feet of existing space to improve classrooms, student spaces, and student practice rooms, and we recommend its approval.
You've heard the description. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. 17.3, approved project initiation for remodeling in the fitness and wellness building at Glendale. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is a remodel of approximately 3,000 square feet of existing space in fitness and wellness that would convert a portion of the women's locker room into a change and meeting space for female athletes and replace the floor tile and the lockers in the adjoining space. The project is in response to a complaint filed against the college and district alleging a violation of Title IX of the Higher Education Amendment Act of 1972 by not providing equal accommodations to both female and male athletes. And Glendale is committed to providing all students with equal access and opportunities, and this includes the appropriate space so that female athletes have comparable locker space to that of male athletes.
You've heard the description. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Motion to, no. Human Resources. 18.1, approve employee group salary schedule adjustments 2016-17. Vice Chancellor Shelton Johnson.
Thank you, President Gutierrez, members of the board. This is a recommendation for the governing board to authorize compensation adjustments for fiscal year 16-17 effective July 2nd for classified, unclassified, skill center, specially funded CEC members and residential faculty employed as of June 18th of this year that are eligible to progress to the next step for them to receive a one-step salary increase. Also, that same group of employees who are at the top of their respective salary schedules will instead receive a 2% base salary increase. Any employees in these categories who are above the top step of their respective salary schedules would receive a 1% base salary increase. 1 semester only, 1 year only, and part-time adjunct faculty who are employed by August 20th of this year, which is the first day of the fall accountability, will receive a 2% lump sum. Adjuncts with continuous service beyond the fall semester are eligible for additional 2% lump sums for each semester worked within the fiscal year. Charter school, high school employees are not included in this recommendation at this time, and current salary structures for all faculty and staff will remain unchanged.
You've heard the discussion. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Discussion? Mr. Saar.
I know we operate as a different, as a separate board when we talk about our 2 charter schools. At what point will we be presented the new salaries for that
I'm going to ask Susan Kroll, Senior HR Manager in the Compensation Department, to assist with that answer.
Ms. Kroll.
President Gutierrez, board members, the charter high school was contacted. However, they are under a different budget time frame, and so at that point that they were taking up the agenda item tonight, they were unable to determine whether they could recommend moving forward with any increase. And so it does not prevent them from moving forward. As soon as they know what their budget is, they will be presenting an agenda item.
Mr. Chair, you will be in charge of that as president, as we operate as a charter school board.
Yes, but let me point out, I think I'm correct in this, Ms. The charter school budget is an entirely separate budget. It is a state-based budget, and so it will be a separate, in effect, separate budget consideration at the time that state law requires. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my understanding. They've always been a separate agenda item.
Yes, thank you. Any other discussion? It's been moved and seconded. All those any other comments? If not, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Information items. Human Resources, Vice Chancellor.
Thank you, President Gutierrez, members of the board. For the period of the month of February, we had a total of 35 new hires and 13 separations.
Any questions? Monitoring reports, business services. Vice Chancellor.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is a monitoring report for the general fund for the first 8 months of the fiscal year ending February 29th, 2016. In terms of expenditures, about 54% have been recognized year to date, which is very similar to prior years. In terms of revenues, about 67% has been recognized year to date, very similar to prior years. And we do at the end of the year expect to meet our financial stability requirement.
You've heard the report. Discussion, questions? If not, let us move on to item 21, community linkage. Mr. Burke.
This was a busy month. I was able to attend the opening or the dedication of the MCC Art Gallery earlier this month. Beautiful new facility with a revolving art collection, and I encourage people to stop by and see it. This is one of the ways that we serve our community. So people in the East Valley and throughout the county can come by and go through the MCC Art Gallery. I was able to attend the building dedication at Westmark, which is a partnership between Arizona Public Service, Westmark, what do we call that? It is a JTED, right? And Australian Mountain Community College. We offer classes there, dual enrollment classes. It's a wonderful facility, and it was a good day for that event. I attended the AADGB meeting, which I will report on later, the Audit and Finance Committee along with Mr. Heap, and the major taxpayers meeting just a week or so ago.
Mr. Saar.
In a couple weeks, I'll be headed to DC with some others to accept the award that we were presented here at our last meeting. They've asked us to come to that to receive it nationally, so we look forward to that. Mr. Burke mentioned the new facility out in the way West Valley. And if you missed the turnoff, you're in California. But it is an outstanding structure, not just physically, but the fact that we occupy a portion of the building, as does West MEC. Students will go to Australia Mountain in the mornings and the evenings, and then West Meck will have the facility for their high school students during the afternoon. So it's a great use of facilities combination that makes it much more valuable to the students and the community they serve. So I congratulate the cooperation that we've had between Australia Mountain and West Meck. That's really a transitional change, and I look forward to more of that throughout the district. Also attended numerous other functions, as others have said, and look forward to upcoming commencement activities. That's always the most fun part of being on a board, is to watch the success of our students as they move on to other endeavors. So look forward to that, and anybody that needs to tell us where we should be, just let us know.
Mrs. Livingston.
I've been teaching, so I haven't been out and about, but I am looking forward to commencement. And again, as Mr. Starr said, wherever we need to be, just let us know. Thank you.
Ms. Haber.
I also went to West Meck, and it was quite an exciting experience for me to go through the facilities and to meet some interns and what their plans were for their lives. They were so excited about what was opening up to them. Also, I went to the Phoenix Union High School District Foundation dinner, and it was an auction to raise money. And I met the new superintendent. He has lots of energy, and I think we all would agree that the better that particular high school district is served, the better off we will be as well. And so I was happy to see they have impressive board members there, and I think they might be on the right track, or a better track than I felt they were on back when I was teaching there. So the rest of the time I've been sick with the flu. That's pretty much it.
Mr. Heap.
I'd like to say ditto. I attended most of the meetings at Mesa Arts, which was absolutely fantastic. West Meck Technical, it's my world, so seeing enclosures and dreams inside of boxes and robotics. Major taxpayers, the taxpayers elected me, and I pull out my card to be able to remind myself that I'm here to lower taxes and also to improve productivity and also lower tuition. So I guess that's my answer to why I said no on the increase, but or the financing. But secondly, I have to applaud our new interim chancellor for initiating a huge program. I'm glad to be able to be still in the industry to be able to see this happen. She has implemented a new system where it's a $40 class and a mobile classroom, and with all the bright futures and technology that is sitting on we used to call it in the archives, waiting to be pulled out to be answer to be able to cut costs and taxes, and also improve enlarge our student body, not only here in the state but nationally and internationally. So I have to really cheer her initiative. Thank you.
Ms. McGrath.
Thank you, President Gutierrez. I had also attended many of these openings, and it has been very pleasurable. The most wonderful thing that I got to do was I visited Phoenix College. They have a group there that is a budget hawk committee, and you cannot imagine how much pleasure I had in listening to them. They have come up with many ways to save money on that campus. They're very concerned about the budget, and it was a pure pleasure, and I certainly congratulate Ms. Haynes, President Haynes, for her work there and for her faculty.
I was involved in, just so I guess everyone knows, the fellow board members, the meeting with legislators on the major legislation that we just passed. It's at the governor's office, but it moves surprisingly smoothly, even with the dramatic opposition of the president. The other meetings I attended were the major taxpayers meeting, and I did make a presentation at Phoenix College on immigration policy and immigration history in this country. Well, thank you. Glad you enjoyed it. External community reports, Arizona Association of District Governing Boards.
First, point of personal privilege.
Yes, sir.
Regarding the major taxpayer meeting, I want to say a word of compliment for Vice Chancellor Thompson, Ms. Murphy, and Ms. Granillo, who did an excellent job presenting to that group. They fielded a number of questions, and I thought that was a good meeting. For the AADGB, I have several comments to make. We were presented a resolution about the high school equivalent program. A new test was introduced this year and had a significantly lower number of people passing it. So there is some concern among community college trustees around the state. We're looking at that. It will be forwarded to you. And the representatives of AADGB were asked to contact their presidents and chancellors to discuss it as well. I found out in the reports from each of the districts that a majority of them have increased tuition and taxes both this year. Coconino this year has a per hour rate of $109. So that's probably the highest in the state. We set a date for the Governance Institute on Student Success. It will be held September 9 and 10 in the district at a place to be designated. And I sent a note to our chair and to our interim vice chancellor asking that we have some time as a board to discuss what we talked about last year in preparation for that meeting. If I could lean on Mr. Saar, maybe at a policy committee meeting in August, we might look at what we talked about last year in preparation for the meeting.
Consider yourself leaned upon. Arizona School Boards Association, Mr. Saar?
No comment.
Association of Community College Trustees, Mr. Saar?
Nothing tonight.
The establishment of next meeting dates, times, and places. Take out your pens, be ready to go. April 12th, 2016. There will be 2 executive sessions. Chancellor Compensation and Chancellor Search, Governing Board Room. Those will be executive sessions. April 13th, the Charter School Committee, Governing Board Room. April 13th, Agenda Review, Governing Board Room. April 13th, Work Session, Governing Board Room. April 26th, Budget and Finance Committee Meeting, Governing Board Room. Public Hearing, Budget Adoption, April 26th. April 26th,
Charter School.
Regular Board Meeting, Governing Board Room. Please note that the May 24th regular board meeting has been rescheduled to May 17th. Also, please note that there are going to be a series of special executive sessions to be held by this board. They will be announced, I hope, in the next day in our finalization of the search for the permanent chancellor. So keep posted on that. Most of those sessions will be executive sessions. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I second it.
Without objection, we are adjourned.